Hi everyone, welcome to another Spark in Joy episode. So in this episode we're going to be looking at temperance by looking at some images and also looking at a couple of meditations. So I'm probably going to lean into the more meditative side of things here and maybe using the card descriptions you see on the screen just as a way of leading into that. So you'll notice I've, in terms of this particular representation here, it's a fairly simple representation. This one here, although it is in black and white grayscale, much more complex. But I just wanted to sort of compare and contrast the two. I could have maybe brought across this sort of classical image, but I decided not to because there's quite a lot of other things going on in there, and I wanted to focus on the main part of this. I suppose for me, might be different for other people. For me, which is this sort of balancing of liquids, balancing of forces, maybe. And but I will read a little bit out of this book as well, because this is really sort of helpful. And I did a separate episode where I flicked through that. So I'm just going to quickly read out the basic meaning here as it pertains to this book. Even in ancient times, temperance was considered to be one of the cardinal virtues. The themes are finding the right measure and aiming for the highest goals in life. The card is an invitation to grasp the contradictions of life with both hands. The alchemist referred to the mysterium I'm going to have trouble pronouncing this. Mysterium coniunctionis, I think that is, the secret of union, which they regarded as the aim of the great work, opus magnum, as the marriage between heaven and earth. The greatest works, however, are lifelong tasks. This is portrayed in the long road, undertakings which are so large that they take up a whole life span, goals which awaken the angel within you, your potential self, your greater potential, and bring it to fruition. So some of the representations you might see of temperance in various tarot cards or alchemical cards or whatever, there may also be like a road, or like a long road on there. Like I said, this is pretty simple representation over here. This one, we have sort of almost like much more chaos in the liquids, much more things going on. So looking at the mixing side of things, because that's where I want to sort of go with this, I suppose. And really it's about how you can gain clarity, so that the environment, so to speak, that you're doing the mixing in isn't affecting the mixture. I think that's where I'm trying to go with this. So mixing liquefactions, contradictions are resolved and reconciled by creating a potential difference between them so that things can flow. Finding the right measure also means achieving the right state of tension and balance of opposites. The other thing you might notice is the significance of the angel, where it's like the only figure in the picture. In some ways that could be implying that there's no way around, and it's something that we need to get to grips with. Also, in some representations, you might find that the wings fill the whole, beyond the frame. So they exceed the limitations of the image. So there's, always new possibilities there, no end in sight, that sort of thing. But for me, it is very much sort of, this idea of grasping the contradictions in life with both hands and also at the same time, I can imagine myself, having two, if you like, containers with different types of liquid in them, and that whole thing of, like pouring them backwards and forwards between the two to, sort of equilibrate them. So eventually they both become the same. Or alternatively, in this example, you can just pour them into a bigger vessel. And as I've said, for me, part of the problem of that is it's not so much the process of moving the liquids backwards and forwards, but there's a whole load of other stuff going on in the background, which is poisoning the well in some ways, or affecting your ability to juggle and to mix those liquids when maybe you have restrictions on mixing vessels. So I've pulled out a couple of meditations. Let's just take these off so we don't get too distracted, and maybe I'll zoom in as much as I can without showing too much of my scrappy. So let's get in here. There we go. So these two, and these come from that rather nice meditations deck that I have, which I've done in previous episodes. I'll just flip over, show you the flip side. I think this is pretty, in some ways, a great representation for what we're talking about in this video. So let me read that one first. And both of these are very, I would call sort of zen-like. So take a complete breath. The relationship between mind and breath lies at the core of all meditation practice. The complete breath is a yoga meditation. Lie on a mat or blanket on the floor, arms by your sides. Focus on breathing through the tip of your nose. Inhale for a steady count of 5 and exhale for 10. Now, one thing I will say about that is that's something, if you're not used to doing it, you can build up to. The idea is to exhale for twice as long as you inhale, but I do accept that just takes a little bit of work sometimes. It's something you're not used to doing. So yeah, inhale for a steady count of 5 and exhale for 10. Repeat this cycle 3 times. Take 2 more complete breaths, this time raising your arms above your head as you breathe in and bringing them back to your sides as you breathe out. And interestingly enough, I do a similar thing standing up in the mornings, but for different reasons. I find I do a series of exercises that really help with my back. I've sort of got long-term niggly back problems, nothing too serious, but it sort of stems back from when I used to do a lot of heavy lifting of scientific equipment back many years ago. And there's 2 occasions where I lifted things that I shouldn't probably have lifted alone. And as a consequence, I have back problems that occasionally flare up. So I do these exercises in the morning which really help. And one of them I actually do standing up, which is a breathing exercise. And I repeat, this hands above your head several times. So I just read it back through again, because I've gone off on a couple of tangents there. I've been muddling the mixture. The relationship between mind and breath lies at the core of all meditation practice. The complete breath is a yoga meditation. Lie on a mat or blanket on the floor, arms by your sides. Focus on breathing through the tip of your nose. Inhale for a steady count of 5 and exhale for 10. Repeat this cycle 3 times. Take 2 more complete breaths, this time raising your arms above your head as you breathe in and bringing them back to your sides as you breathe out. So the other one is this discover pure precepts, which I think these two really work nicely together. And I would probably do that complete breath one and then lead into this afterwards, because that complete breath one acts as a really good sort of pre-meditation stabilizer. So in Zen practice there are said to be 3 precepts for pure living: to refrain from harm, to be true to one's inner self, and to be true to others. Spend 5 minutes today in quiet meditation on the first precept. How does it figure into your life? Tomorrow spend 5 minutes meditating on the second precept, and the following day 5 minutes on the third. After each session, resolve to be more mindful of the precepts in your day-to-day life. So let me just read that again. This is called Discover Pure Precepts. In Zen practice, there are said to be 3 precepts for pure living: to refrain from harm, to be true to one's inner self, and to be true to others. Spend 5 minutes today in quiet meditation on the first precept. How does it figure in your life? Tomorrow, spend 5 minutes meditating on the second precept, and the following day 5 minutes on the third. After each session, resolve to be more mindful of the precepts in your day-to-day life. And so, as I've said with this, I find that both of those are very helpful when you are trying to sort of clear one's mind and sort of cut down on the potential to muddle the mixture. When you are trying to sort of do this balancing act or this process of trying to find temperance in one's life. Hopefully this was another helpful video. I know I got a good response to the first video I did on this, so that's encouraging me to keep this up as a series. Thanks once again for watching. Bye for now, and I will catch you in a future episode.